Welcome to HortTube, where we talk all things gardening. My name is Jim Putnam, and this is episode 1 of a series I'm doing on backyard propagation techniques. I'm going to build a small, very inexpensive hoop house. It's not going to hold very many flats, but over the course of this, you're going to see how the little hoop house is constructed, how to install irrigation components, how to get those perfectly dialed in, because that's the most important thing, that these things stay wet all the time. We're going to be using a clock that uses seconds rather than minutes, and some electronic valves, so you learn a lot there. And then throughout the course of this series, we'll be talking about different techniques for different types of woody shrubs and some trees. We're just going to do a small amount of each one and then see what kind of success we have with this house. If this series goes well, the next time we'll build a more permanent structure. I've got a pipe bender. I can show you how to do all those kinds of things. We'll see, if this series goes well, hopefully. It's kind of funny, I have a very large propagation house at my nursery, and we get 80-90% success there. This is going to be kind of interesting whether or not I can actually translate this into my backyard into a tiny little structure. I'm going to show you the items I'm going to be using in this episode. I bought 4 2x3x8 pieces of wood. They're untreated. You might want to buy pressure treated lumber if you think you're going to leave your little hoop house in place for any length of time. These will last a couple seasons for sure, but I was trying to go as inexpensive as possible just for this little educational hoop house. I've got 4 pieces of Schedule 40 1/2-inch PVC. These are 10-foot lengths. You definitely have to get Schedule 40. Do not buy the thin wall pipe. It'll definitely snap when you try to bend it. These are 1/2-inch. You could probably use 3/4 inch. You'll see on a lot of hoop houses, PVC hoop houses being built, they're built out of 1 inch. Those are much larger houses, and the curve isn't as serious as we're about to try to bend these. We're going to bend these pretty hard, and I don't think you could do that with the 1 inch, but you probably could do it with 3/4. Again, I was just trying to spend as little as possible on this just to show you how low we can actually go spending to build a little hoop house like this. I've got 3 mil roll of plastic here. This is actually enough to probably cover this thing about 8 times, so we'll be using that plastic again in the future. I got a 10 pack of 2-hole pipe straps right here. We'll use that to hold this PVC down to the lumber. I also bought a shade cloth cover off of Amazon. It's a 70% shade cloth. I probably would have preferred a 50 or 60% shade cloth, but it was 40 or 70 for the size I wanted. But this thing was only $10. I'm going to link these materials below the description of this video just so you have a list of what I was using. I've also purchased a few bags of pea gravel. We probably will not be putting the plastic, the cover, or the pea gravel in this first episode. It doesn't make sense. We'll build the structure of this thing, and then next episode we're going to do the irrigation. It's easier to do the irrigation before you put the plastic on it. We need very few tools for this project. I have a circular saw to cut these pieces of lumber. You could probably get away with a handsaw for that. I've got a electric drill. I've got a 7/8 inch drill bit for putting this PVC into this lumber. I'll show you that later, but it's a 7/8 inch drill bit. Then I have a measuring tape. Also have a pair of PVC cutters. You don't need these. You can use any kind of handsaw to cut this 1/2-inch PVC pipe for sure, but I have these, so I'm going to use them. Makes quick work of it. And then I'm using 2 1/2-inch screws. I've got the appropriate bit in my drill for that. So that's all the tools that we need for this project. So the first thing I'm going to do is build a little 6x3 box. I need to get 2 6-foot pieces out of this and 2 3-foot pieces out of this. So I just measure it with the tape, get them out to 6 feet, make my mark. We're definitely going to be using the 2-foot pieces that come off the end of these as part of our end walls. So there you go. We got 2 6-foot pieces and 2 3-foot pieces. We're just going to form a rectangle out of these using the electric drill and 2 1/2-inch screws. I probably should be wearing some sort of eye protection using the circular saw and the drill, and I would recommend you do that. I'm probably just too old to train at this point. I actually want the 3-foot pieces on the inside, and so I'm just going to put this at about a 90-degree angle right there. I hope you can see that, okay? And just hold that in place, and we'll drive one of these screws in. None of this has to be absolutely perfect on something like this. When we build one with metal hoops, we'll definitely go for a little more perfection. Now all we have to do is flip it over. The reason that I picked 6x3, and this is kind of important, is the flats that I'm going to use to put the rooted cuttings in are about 18 inches by probably 12 inches wide. So we'll be able to put 2 flats, 6 times. So we'll put 12 in here, but we'll run the flats this way. So that'll give us 12 flats in here. And if the flats hold 50 rooted cuttings, that's going to give us somewhere in the 600 range of attempted rooted cuttings. Hopefully we get a good percentage on them. So whatever size you decide to build this, just make sure you keep in mind the flats are going to be about 12 inches wide and 18 inches long. Okay, I'm going to drill holes in these side pieces for our PVC to fit into, and I'm going to have 4 hoops on this. So it's 6 foot long. So if I put one on each end and then one at the 2 foot mark and one at the 4 foot mark, that should space them out perfect. So I don't really need to mark the corners, but I do need to find 2 feet here, and I need to find 4 feet here. I'm going to take this 7/8 inch drill bit and I'm going to drill down right in the center, about 2 inches down. Same thing close to the corners. So we're going to end up, I'll do a close up after I drill them so you can see them. The one thing we'll need to keep in mind is we can't drill right in the corner because we just put screws in there. So I'll come in just a bit to start this first one. Okay, so I got the holes drilled in it, and what I realized, I was going to cut these PVC pieces into shorter pieces and then use those crosses and those T's to make a rib across the middle. But then I took one of these and I stuck it in here, and then took the full 10-foot piece and stuck it in there like that, and it absolutely works perfect. So they're actually very rigid. So that's what I'm going to do on these. I'm going to just take all 4 of them and just keep them intact. So here's a close-up. We just drilled using that 7/8 inch bit about 2 inches down into this lumber. Slide the piece in, bend it over, and stick it into the other side. Okay, I'm going to end this episode here, and the reason I'm at a stopping point is it's kind of time to put the irrigation into this thing. I don't want end walls on it and plastic on it and all that. I really want to get it over here next to the fence where it's going to go in the sun, get the irrigation lines run into it, get all that level working correctly. Then I'm going to I've got to frame an end wall here and on here with the extra lumber we have, and that'll make it more rigid. Then the plastic has to go on it, shade cloth has to go on it, and then it's going to give it a little bit of time to really make sure the water is working properly before we just start sticking cuttings in there. I don't want to find out that the water's not working at that time, because then you're just going to be wasting your time, throwing cuttings out. So hopefully we'll have it all in working order by then. But the next episode, I'll put the irrigation in. The next one after that, we'll finish the basic construction of it. The next one after that, we'll go through all the things you're going to need to follow along, the trays I'm going to use, the cutters I use, the soil amendments that I use, the things like peat moss and perlite, how I'm mixing those together and putting that in the trays so that we'll be ready to go when it's time to start taking cuttings later in the spring. Another thing, just to let you know, I've got about $50 spent so far. This lumber and this PVC is very little, but the shade cloth was about $10. I'll link it below where you can get it from Amazon. I've got this plastic. This plastic is long enough to cover this thing 6 or 7 times, so I'll have this for a while. But I think it was about $12, and it's a 3 mil plastic. You're going to want at least a 3, maybe 4 mil plastic for sure. And then these this 10-pack of these straps we haven't used yet. We'll use, when we frame out the end of this, we'll use these straps to tie it to that lumber to make it more rigid. and I've got bags of gravel over there. There'll be a piece of plastic is gonna go in the bottom of this thing, and then gravel is gonna go over the top of it after we get our irrigation in there. So that's kind of why I'm at a stopping point right now. But next week, I'll be back every Thursday with an episode to hopefully teach you guys how you can do some backyard propagation. Thanks for watching my video. And if it was helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for future videos. Also comment below with any questions you have. Thanks again.